Yeah, this hangout on air is live. Thank you for joining us to OreAni Fall Season Lineup 2017 Part 2. So we went over quite a few titles last time, and today we're going to continue with a few more. Since we have a small group, we're probably going to make this a little smaller video, but unless we get really passionate about something. We'll see
how
this
are
goes.
you not passionate about anime fandom, man? Come on.
Don't forget to check out your local theater for Spirited Away. Yeah. I think that's what's playing around right now, right?
That sounds about right.
Some anime Fathom, or Fathom, whatever you call that.
Fathom and G-Kids, arguably, but Fathom has, I think, a more appealing site when it comes to show times. G-Kids is a little unorganized when it comes to that.
Yep. I should be more excited, actually. I should sound like that. I'm just too sleepy.
Well, you capture my energy, in particular, with most of me. Like, I do like a lot of Miyazaki stuff, but it's not going to draw me to a theater when I already have seen it.
I got to get my persona jumping with joy with this new title. What do you call this? Anime God Parties?
Yeah, it's the continuation of the Monogatari series, don't you know? Just with anime.
Araragi-kun is back with Hanekawa. So, more problems.
Dealing with anime instead and the otaku. The more you know about anime, the more anime otaku problems you have.
Yeah.
The more they bother you.
Okay. On a serious note, though, this show is quite decent, quite good. It's an anime that's about anime.
Well, I'd say more specifically, it's kind of like an anime about getting into anime.
Yeah, in a way. You got Minoa. This, I think they're first year in high school. That isn't in any clubs or in any particular group. So she's in the going home. Those group of people right after school. And I guess it's kind of weird because I think it's her older sister, right? That she has that is very athletic and is also in a club. And she talks about how things are going. And she feels kind of envious that she doesn't really have anything like that. So she decides to she wants to get into a club or some kind of group. And in the process of having this newfound determination, she has this really weird dream, which, oh my God, it had so many similarities to a bunch of different animes.
I think that's what I was going for.
Yeah, so it was kind of funny, her dream. And it was a dream about an anime she watched as a child, so.
Allegedly.
Yeah, but she can't remember the title, so. At school, she asks some friends, like, hey, do you watch anime? She's like, oh yeah, when I was a kid. And she's like, do you remember a show that had this, this, this? And during this conversation, someone overhears it and then gets interested, thinking that she's an anime fan or something like that. When, she really isn't. So, thinking that she has an interest, she pulls her to the side and reveals that she's a big otaku herself without knowing. And from there, they decide to look into the anime club to see if they could find the answer to the title that she supposedly the anime she dreamt of, right? So she goes, and the club isn't really built. So they decide they're going to make, or not make, but reactivate the anime club. So that's the premise of the first part of this show. And I think it's really going to just be a show about an anime club and all their shenanigans and what happens. But they do have a small little thing kind of going on in the background, which I won't say right now. To when you watch, you'll kind of get it. But
well, I don't know. I think it's kind of somewhat important to bring up, but like
I
there's
only
almost this like fantasy element alongside the slice of life story. I
yeah,
mean, not quite slice of life,
but you got all sorts of different people that are trying to that they have joined the club to try to rebuild it, and it's kind of reminds me of our anime talk group. So you got the light novel reader who's always comparing everything to the light novel and then its original story and all that stuff. You have the Chunibyo guy, Kai, that's over the top, exaggerates every little thing. So you can, the eighth grade syndrome.
I don't know if we got many of those. Maybe just the role players.
Yeah, then you got the cosplayer, and then you got I think they refer Ikemen, right?
The
The
hot guy.
the hot guy that's into like idol anime or something like that because he's like got the Love Live thingy going on or something. So
Yeah, like the
there's
idol anime fan.
yeah, so they have a bunch of really strange people that we're slowly going to learn about, and uh, all of that's cool. But what I'm really watching this show for is Sebastian. Dude, Sebastian is awesome.
You totally do not sound like you're into yaoi or anything right now. I will admit.
But no, oh my God, Sebastian, he's just so awesome, especially the second episode, right when it starts. His little dance is awesome. Everyone needs a little Sebastian in their life.
Well, unlike my friend Tank here, I am not watching this for Sebastian. The moral of this, not the moral of the story by any means, but as he gave a summary aside, what I'm really enjoying from this anime is the perspective it paints for, like, the protagonist of this show is practically a stand-in for the viewer as they're being exposed to the various perspectives of like anime fandom. So like through these characters teaching her, you're kind of learning about a lot how people initially develop their particular interest in anime. And it's just kind of nice that it presents a lot of information that we as like fans eventually pick up on after like following it for a while. Because like when you first start watching anime, you're not really paying attention to like how the industry operates, and there's kind of an episode about that, and just about being a fan and making a club and having like-minded peers and trying to have a lot of the mentalities that anime tries to inspire people to have. So I kind of like it, like watching it as a spectator of watching someone get into anime, like, and comparing it to my own experiences with how I eventually figured stuff out, because I didn't have a group of friends to just say, hey, we've been doing this for a while, this is how it like is, and no one like accelerated that process for me. So yeah.
Yeah, when I was younger and anime was like very, very, very limited. Um, There's no anime clubs. There's
Yeah, we
such
didn't
thing
really have
at
those.
all in schools. Like nowadays, you talk to people. Oh yeah, my anime club in my school. We got them all over the place nowadays. But yeah, that was where the good old days where you had to get 2 episodes per VHS. You're like spending $25
Good old
per
days?
VHS.
Wait. Good old days? I
Yeah, the
think
good
today's
old
like good
days.
old days.
Yeah, today's actually way better for anime. So, um, anime was expensive back in the day. But this is really fun show. Now the thing about this show though is I think it's perfect for someone who's in anime that wants to expand. I don't think this is a show for someone who's getting into anime.
Mhm.
But if you're in
Yeah,
anime and you want to learn more about like what anime can give you besides just great cartoons or however you.
yeah, I'd say relative newcomer plus. It's a pretty good.
Yeah, because like it wasn't actually until Sword Art Online that I learned about light novels. Uh, Now I'm reading tons of web light novels and stuff like that, and it's becoming more and more popular nowadays, especially with all the books that are being released by the different companies. And cosplay until you go to a convention, do you really not learn too much about that?
That's for true. At least I think.
Unless you're, it's being more exposed because of social network.
Hmm.
But usually it was only at conventions that you would ever really hear about that. And then just Chunibyo is actually something you probably just pick up randomly in some kind of show you watch.
Yeah, I mean, I kind of had that like one friend back in high school who it wasn't full on Chunibyo, but they like to what's usually called like LARPing nowadays is kind of like what they were into. Just before that was a fad.
I see.
It's kind of like if you like LARPing at all, that's kind of like almost the step in for the American version of Chunibyo, kind of.
But this is a great show, and it also brings up a lot of things, a lot of titles that they try to hide in a certain way. So it's kind of fun to try to decipher what show they're talking about. Well, some are just pretty obvious. But like in the third episode, they actually talked about something which I don't even know how we got into it ourselves. But the 3 episode cutoff, they made a remark on the 3 episodes that people watch only 3 episodes and then decide if they're going to stay with it or go away.
Hmm.
And it was something that we also implemented in our hangout group, or that's why we do these hangouts uh, usually 3 episodes into the season, so we can give our opinions on like if we like it or not, or if we are going to just particular title. So um, I wonder when it actually became a thing like that.
I mean, I just think it's very common. Like you're kind of watching a show and you're more on the fence. Like it kind of interests you and it kind of doesn't, and it's like you're not sure if you want to drop it or not. So you just give it that another chance. Maybe give it another chance, and then if you're still like that unsure about it, it's probably better just to drop it. Like I think it just kind of works that way with anything people try implementing. Like when it comes to like a real life practice, like as well.
Mm-hmm. But yeah, it's definitely pretty interesting, pretty fun. Of course, it's all based in Japan, so they have a small little trip to Akiba, so you get to see some cool stuff there. But um, overall, not bad. I think I would recommend it to people that are in anime already. You got anything else to add?
No, I think I said my piece so far.
Yeah. Let's go to the next title then. Next title is How do you read that? Shoujo Shumatsu Yoko?
Shoujo Shumatsu Yukio. Yeah, I'd say.
Yoko, yeah.
Or as it's being called in English, Girls Last Tour.
Oh, that's what they call it, Girls
Yeah.
Last Tour.
Yeah.
Okay. Well, this show is actually very interesting to me. It's been very fun and actually kind of um, a very bit laid back show though. So it's something I could just if I want to relax and have a good little story. This is something that really interested in right now. Let me see. You watch this, right?
Yeah, I'm watching it.
Yeah. So actually, it kind of surprised me a little bit, but it starts off with these two girls, Chito and Yuri, and those are almost the only two characters throughout the whole thing. And I actually thought it was only going to be them until we got to episode 3, and they actually introduced one other guy, which I thought
Kind
was
of.
surprising. I was like, "What?" But the animation is kind of toned down a lot, so it's very simple. But don't let that fool you. It's a really they have some pretty deep things going on sometimes, and also what did I want to say? It's a very hard life for them, and I think this is like some apocalyptic world.
Well,
Of course, it's some kind of
post-apocalyptic.
of course some kind of fantasy world because it's really weird how the world is because it looks like it's done in layers as well.
Mm-hmm.
So
They've got to climb that sword art tower and beat the
yeah,
boss to get out.
yeah. But the thing is also though the episodes are kind of in a are cut into little parts. So like you have part one, part two, and then one of the episodes I think had 3 parts in it. So they're just like small little stories put together of their travels through this world and them trying to survive with each other. And
Yeah.
it's so it's yeah, it's your what is it? Cute girls doing cute things as well.
I, I don't know. I don't know about that one, man. Cute things. Rummage through the salvage of an aircraft. Cute. Moi cute. Yeah, no, it is very laid back. Typically, we see the characters as they go about traveling this kind of desolate planet because for some reason or another civilization is kind of gone. And as Ten kind of said, we are shown a scope of these two are at least alive, and they had a parental figure, but like who exists beyond that? It's kind of hard to say. As you know, where do they get gas from to fill their motorbike as they like look across this kind of war-torn world? Because one of the things that we can at least tell is there are the landscapes that they transverse tend to be very covered in shattered remnants of war tools like your tanks and your planes and just other very big structures that don't really exist in today's world as we know it. So it's very, as you're kind of watching them explore this planet, you're also trying to get a sense of what it was like. And, you know, a question that might be at the back of your mind is, you know, what happened to everybody? Did did the nuclear standoff cause this? Like, did mutual assured destruction have its way? I probably not, because they're exploring the planet. If it was mutual assured destruction, probably wouldn't be safe to do that anytime soon. But it's kind of interesting to at least like, because like me, I kind of wonder why they're traveling. I get that it might be boring to stay home, but you know, they're bundled up in the harshest part of winter, it seems at this point, just kind of traveling for it's something to do. and
Yeah.
and like it works as a weird hook to me because at first I wasn't sure, but but you know, it did make me kind of inquire into what's going on, and I didn't really mind that it was really focused on a lot of landscape work because like the characters are like very would you call that Poonie plush?
I don't think so. But
No. Hmm. But
they're very round though, so
yeah.
and laid back. The only thing that's got me with the show is that, and I'm hoping that they set up within at least the next few more episodes if they haven't, because I haven't seen the newest one. But it's like they don't really have a goal right now. It's just they're traveling, just trying to survive right now. And so I'm wondering what, you know, do they have a goal? Are they trying to do something like Cheeto just keeps a journal just to keep records of things that they're doing and everything, but they're just basically living day to day, not doing much, or just traveling in a straight line trying to get.
I mean, they're definitely on a
Somewhere.
trip, like, it's very, it's, I don't know how much like training that they've had in the realm of survival, but like this is a trip in which they can easily not make it back from with any given one wrong move. So
The other thing about it too makes me wonder, like their age, because if you see the adults, they're so much larger. So it makes me wonder, like, are they like around 14 years old or something like that? 16 years old? Because when you do see the adult that appears, they're pretty small, and even in I think they have flashbacks, right? When they first leave, the adults are large. So I really wonder how old they are. And the great thing about them is their personalities are totally different from each other, which makes the story that much funner.
mm.
I almost want to call this a healing anime, but I don't think I can. It just heals my heart.
A lot
Just
of the
watching it.
user-defined tags tend to consider it that,
Really?
along with cute girls doing cute things, even though I wouldn't consider it that. But that is something that people have tagged on this show.
Oh. I didn't think it would get a healing tag, but
Oh yeah, 70%.
oh, that's interesting.
With cute girls doing cute things at 79. Post-apocalyptic
Yeah.
100.
Does it have a slice of life tag? Even
No,
though
but it
it's a
does have
word.
a seinen, or however you pronounce that, seinen.
Satan. Yeah. But yeah.
Which is kind of weird for this to be a seinen, in all honesty. But I mean, it's not really for kids either. So who is it appealing to?
Yeah. The things I like about this show are how they contrast between how bleak the world is with the subtle moments of just these beautiful blue colors that just come in to show the day opening up and showing how things are going good right now. And then when they go back to the travels, everything's really dark and it has a gray tone to show how bad the world is. But it's
More
really
like
fun.
dead the world is.
The only thing upsets me, honestly, is that little vehicle they're driving.
Mm-hmm.
Like, why is there a wheel on it when it has those tracks? Like, does the steering wheel connected to the wheel really help it turn like that? It's got those tracks like that. I don't know. I
Can't
don't
say
know
I've
much.
heard of
I
that.
don't know much about vehicles like that, so I'm like, to me, that wheel just seems off.
But like another aspect that I guess I didn't really think of is aside from people being gone, we also see a stark lack of wildlife at large. There doesn't seem to be a lot of birds flying about. There's really not any animals who typically can take more winter-esque conditions moving about. They came across a dead fish once, and it's like they never saw one before. Just because the one girl had book knowledge, she's like, oh, this is probably a fish. So it does kind of make me wonder, like, how society is kind of getting by it. That, like, do they farm wherever they exist? Do they just live on rations that they scrounge from this weird military battle? That, like, I have a lot of questions in regards to that, but I think it's intentionally not answering a lot of it to add to the mystique of the show. If it just played it all out, it might not be as enticing.
Yeah, I honestly thought that fish was fake.
I kind of did too, but that's probably just the Poonie plush-ish style. I just don't know what else to call it. So until we come up with something.
Yeah, with that style, it got me with that fish, I would have to say. But let me see. I would say give this a try, definitely. If you're not into slow paced stories, then you might not like this because it is pretty slow paced. There's not really much action going on at all. Um, but it is a nice, relaxing story. I mean, even just when they're driving, Yuri just falls asleep because of the constant little rumbling sound that just. I think I would fall asleep too if you're just driving the whole time. All you hear is just.
I mean, yeah, like if you're driving hours upon hours, probably. But
Yeah, good show. Highly recommend it. You have anything else? Like, I didn't watch any of the openings or endings. Are they good for that?
I nothing is like super caught my eye yet, but sometimes it like takes a while to grow on me, or I just have to like chance the actual song just to see the full song if I like it. But
All
hard to
right,
say.
let's go to the next title.
Sure thing.
Yay! It's Umaru or Himoto Umaru-chan R. So this is the second season of what do you call it? Himoto, right?
Yes, the Himoto.
So I forgot kind of what I think the Himo is because of her name, right? Himaru or something like that.
Well, it's Umaru, so I forget what the
So what is the H for then?
I don't know.
I forgot her name is Umaru, even though I was just saying it just a second ago.
I think because it's like her image or something, kind of like the Ikemen thing. Like it's supposed to be like the perfect little sister or something.
Or yeah, probably Hime, the Princess Hime, and then Imoto. Maybe you
Because
probably
like
got something
that's
there.
what she tries to appeal like to other people, but then you see her personality clash at home.
Yeah. So this is the second season, continuing off where they left off, I guess. I can't remember where they left off. It didn't really leave that big of an impression from the first season. I just remember certain scenes that it was pretty funny. Um, Himaru is actually not even a character I like, or sorry, Umaru is not a character I really like. Ebina is top girl for me there.
Yeah, I think like she's like the one redeeming character of the show, if not, like the brother Taihei makes things interesting as like the straight man kind of. Not that this is a full on comedy or anything, but him trying to correct his sister's like super otaku-ish behaviors at home with just becoming something kind of decent is a slight redeeming factor of the show, but yeah, Ebina is definitely the what is it? The Kansai dialect is she concealing or whatever?
Yeah, Kansai. It's funny when she kind of slips into that little dialect and she tries to correct herself. And of course, she's got that crush for the brother, which is really nice. They still play that off really well. But definitely, you have to watch the first season if you're going to be watching the second or getting into the second season, because they've already shown you a lot of the relationships that have been made in the first season that are continuing on the second. Like Umaru being UMR, which is her gamer. Um, how would you say that?
You don't know where that comes from?
Oh, I know where it comes from. It comes from her name, but
okay. I was just wondering.
it's when she goes outside to game instead of being inside. So
yeah, it's kind of like her secret persona. Like she just kind of dons the not blindfold, but the whatever that thing's called.
The face mask.
Kind of like eye mask mostly. Doesn't really obstruct the face.
But and then
I forget what that thing's called.
And then she's like with Tachibana, the girl that's always trying to updo Umaru in school.
Mm-hmm.
Then you got Kirie, which is the follower to Umaru. I can't remember exactly why she's following her.
Although, unrelated question, have you ever done a Kirie of Kirie?
No, not yet. I should do one.
All right, back on topic.
And then you got Bomber, who's hilarious. I like Bomber. Or Boomer, whatever. What's his name?
Something like that, one of the two.
Taihe's co-worker. But it's just a continuation. And same random stories of just gaming and messes and her, trying to get out of her evil brother's clutches so she can do whatever she wants.
Or out from under his watchful eye, at least.
Yeah.
Yeah, like, it really does continue with the same formula established. And the same thing kind of constantly peeves me about this show is how they achieve the high schooler to, like, chibi art thing, because actively acknowledged in the series as well. Because when the character Bomber comes over, he has that nickname for her, Tanukichi, or kind of like Tanuki or something, but slightly different.
Uh-huh.
And it's so weird, like, if she was actually a high schooler, to have her doing the thing she's doing and just have this other, like, working adult be all like, oh, hey, I have this name for you. And it's so weird how, like, she's normally this, like, perfect person for, like, everyone except when people come over after school's all said and done. Or normally she maintains that facade in front of, like, everyone except her brother. He tends to be the only exception. So, like that's just a small pet peeve of mine. But on the flip side here, we do have, I think, one additional maybe main cast character now, because it's revealed that Tachibana might have an elder brother who's trying to infiltrate the Umaru household to, espionage style, tell his sister, like, what's going on, giving her some clues.
Yeah, you reminded me of that. They did have that underlying thing going on.
Well, yeah, like, it's not known yet how much they're going to play on it, but he's, like, the newest of characters who seems like they might try to include him in a lot of what's to come from the second season.
He was shown in last season.
Yeah, he was shown. He's going to have a bigger role, it seems, unless he, like, fails to appeal to the otaku side of Umaru and can never get into the household to get that information or whatever he's trying to tell the story. Because the interesting thing is, like, normally they leave that for the viewer to just kind of wonder about, like, how that character is related to other characters. And it was kind of funny because in this series, like, Umaru was actively doing that herself. It's like, who does this guy remind me of? I think he's related to this person. So she's kind of like already figuring out the relation without, because like a lot of times that's like sitcom for the viewer, but
I will say this show does have heavy influence on me, because when I'm watching it, I just want to like grab a bag of chips and a Dr. Pepper or something and just sit there and watch some shows or do something. She makes me want to be lazy.
a failure of an adult. You should be much more like Tai Hei.
Tai Hei is too scary for me. I mean, he'd be a good friend, just not someone to be. But yeah, not much to say. Just watch the first season. If you like it, then you can watch the second season. They do a lot of gamer references, mostly, rather than anime, I think.
Well, I think it just kind of is trying to cater to that extreme aspect of an extreme otaku's lifestyle. And it was always unnerving how much I'd be going out on like the convention scene, and like a lot of the younger generation has taken to the throwing on of like the hamster hoodie thing, and it's like, I don't know if you're going for that because it's an easy cosplay or you just enjoy the character that much, but maybe the younger generation appreciates the rambunctiousness of the Umaru character, who, while going to school, really, although she does go to school and go to school well, she still, wants to be a kid and play those games and do all that stuff. But like, I just have no appreciation for the Umaru character. That's just me.
Yeah, a lot of people actually during the first season didn't like the show or complained a lot just because of her and how she acts like a spoiled little brat. And a lot of people complain about how she's whiny and everything.
I think they toned that down at least a little bit thus far.
Yeah, they have toned it down quite a bit this new season. I think it's because she hasn't been her chibi self a lot this beginning of the season. She's mostly like UMR or in her, He-Man format from what I've seen. But that may change later on.
Yeah, now that I'm remembering it, she used to impose a lot upon like Taihei, and like he would kind of bend for her a lot more, and it just seems like she's either trying to be more tactful about it and not be as needy, not at all needy, but not nearly as needy.
Yeah, I think it's just because of it's been toned down. I think because of also Taihei has been gone quite a few times within this moment. So, but it's a nice little thing to help bring the brother sister together. I think you can see how she's slightly changing, but honestly, I don't think she's going to change at all at the end of the season. Except for maybe with more gamer friends or whatnot, or people accepting her for who she really is. And now you have that all the time. All right. Should we go to the next title then?
Sure.
Yeah. Himaru, whatever you call the show. Umaru. What's the next title we're talking about? Oh. UQ Holder. Maho Sensei Negima 2. I think they call it, right? I think that's a little thing underneath UQ.
Yeah.
Holder.
Yeah.
So it makes it sound like it's a season 2.
Well, there's a little bit of a discrepancy with that, and that's because like the Japanese has that as a subtitle, but apparently we, I think, are looking to drop that in the English adaptation. I'm not sure. I think the English might just be called UQ Holder, and we might omit that.
Yeah, so I don't know if there's a lot of people who watch Negima, but there's actually two series of Negima.
Mm-hmm.
So one's very different from the other, and so this only follows the arc of one of those of the two that's already been released. And I think the reason why they call it two is because you have a few of the characters that are from the original series, like Evangelion or Yvonne, whatever her name is.
Evangeline or whatever. I
Evangelina.
don't know if that's the English pronunciation, but
Yeah, and then also you see the what's his name, Springfield's Craze or something like that. So
hmm?
which is Negima, I think.
Oh, okay.
That's his last name, I think it was. So who knows what's happened in the past? I wonder if they'll show you what's happened or what's going on with all those characters. You just got to watch, but it's a show. What is shonen, right? Battles, action, fighting, so much fun.
Yeah.
It's your typical uh, anime for your teenage high school boys.
I don't know if this thing's going to be typical, man.
Oh yeah. I forgot they do show a lot of nudity.
Like that opening scene was part of the antics that Nejima was a little bit known for. Somewhere deep down.
Yeah, I forgot about that. The original series is pretty etchy too. Yeah, clothes always constantly being ripped off whenever he sneezes and stuff like that. But in this one, now you got this weird character. Actually all forgot about him because I've read the manga of this a little bit,
Mm-hmm.
not all of it, just a little bit. And I forgot about that character that you're like, is it that a guy? Is that a girl? So
Oh yeah.
we got our little trap in there for who knows who yet. But let's see. It's about this boy who finds out he's an immortal or a vampire, who then goes on a journey with.
Okay, sure, we'll go with that.
Yeah.
Finds out he is one.
Yeah.
Are you going off your manga knowledge, or did you watch a lot of the episodes so far?
I've watched the episodes, two of
Okay.
them.
Okay.
Two of them. Um, kind of forgot my manga knowledge though.
That's
The thing I did find funny was like how he treats her. Like he goes and the whole bath scene moment was hilarious.
yeah,
He's
that
like,
was
yeah,
handled kind of well.
yeah,
But
I don't want to see you. God, why do I want to see you? The Audrey gets fucking upset. I thought that was great. But I'm not too sure really what this. I think it's. Oh wait, no, there is a goal. There is quite a tense goal. So, and he makes that known at the end of the first episode,
yeah,
which is something I don't remember being in the first season. So it's probably something new.
hmm.
The tower.
Climbing the orbital elevator.
Yeah, but with its vampires and everything, you got magic and all sorts of things. The only thing I'm wondering is if they'll bring the whole chupacabra back because in Negima, there's the hunt for the chupacabra going on all the time. I thought that was hilarious. What if they'll have some kind of mystical creature in this show that they're going to be chasing?
Yeah. Um. Honestly, I never was. I'm not well vested in my knowledge of the Nejima world. I know I did have a friend of mine who was about that back in the day. It was one of his more liked series. Kind of fell off the anime world as far as I know for the most part. But I checked out the first episode and kind of vaguely remembered a lot of the characters, and decided to kind of watch it, as I kind of knew that it was setting up like a new cast to follow. But one of the things that I find weird, just because I have no knowledge of where it's going, even though you might, is one of the key visuals for this thing kind of showed what our main cast team is going to look like, because like you kind of had a face off with two characters, and or with two sides, if you will, and one of which is the side that we're building up is like the main character so far. Only like 3 of those members were assembled, but like at the flip side, you have. I'm just going to ask. I'm pretty sure it led us to believe this, but that red haired guy is like the grown up version of Nejima, right?
Yeah, it looks like it.
Well, because they kind of did that where they had Neji for a moment, and then he kind of like age progressed into what looks like, you know, meet me at top of the orbital elevator, and that's kind of like the main character's goal now. He just has to get up there. That's our whole point of progressing the plot here. And in the key visual, he was kind of like in the side that was in opposition to the main cast here. So it kind of does make me wonder where this thing's going. Like, you know, I just don't see how the character that was Nejima, like the happy-go-lucky professor the child professor that they had near the beginning of this very episode, and you know they have the whole other anime series about him, would be like any kind of an opposition. But that's kind of how they structured the key visual. So it's like, huh.
Yeah. But I will say that the biggest change between this and the other series is that the other series had this very, very big harem-esque feel, while this one doesn't really seem to be doing a harem at all.
And not
No,
currently.
I'm not going to say it's not because of how soon or how early we are into the series. But right now, I don't have that harem feel at all. While the other one was, of course, him and his, what, like 30 some, maybe 40 classmates that he got with eventually.
Yeah.
Or I shouldn't say classmates, his students. Because he was the teacher. So we'll see how things go there. I wonder if a lot of people are going to be watching this. But it's definitely, right now, something you could just pick up and watch without having to watch Negima. So I think that's one
Yeah,
of the good things.
I'd say I didn't really know Negima at all, so I'm not feeling super lost watching this one. Um, you know, there is like this one character who I actually talked about it with that friend of mine that I mentioned, and you know he was kind of weirded out by the fact that the Evangeline character is still an immortal vampire, but now like, well, you know that was actually I should explain it to him how that worked out. Now that I remembered your earlier comment, but there like was that one character who like follows a lineage of like, assumably to me, one of like Nejima's students, because she, you know, like due to like the techniques he or she used or whatever, it's like, oh, you came from that, you know, like bloodline, like that was your family, like, so that's what they've been up to, like, or that's the eventual result of this 500-year timeline. So like there might be like perhaps like the distant offspring of some of those characters present in this series, but I don't think that really matters as far as I know.
There might be. There might be. I mean, I think we saw some silhouettes or some like vague character showings, like who they might see in the future, right?
Perhaps.
And some of them did look like very familiar. So I don't know if they're descendants or if they're actual people, but they have said a lot of time has passed. So them still being alive, um, I wouldn't say is unlikely because this is a world of magic, right? So maybe they could do something with magic, but we'll see. Let's go to the next show. La da dun 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 dun. This is called Ki, or sorry, Konohana Kitan. If you love Neko Mimi or Kemono Mimi, then you'll love this show. I almost said Neko Mimi, but I don't think they're cats at all. They just have beast ears. Um, so this is another one of those, I want to say, slice of life type of show that revolves around this girl, um, Yuzu, that goes to this inn to work at this inn. And this kind of reminds me of that Irohanas, or whatever that one show was. Nick, you know what show I'm talking about?
I believe I remember you guys talking about like a Hanasaka Iroha or something like that.
Yeah, Hanasaka Irohana. Yeah, it has a very similar setting. I won't say the show's very similar, but the setting is where you have that hotel or inn or whatever you want to call it, and people go there to relax, and she's there to learn and work there, and she gets partnered up with different individuals to help take care of the customers and the building. So um, it's a very cutesy anime. Characters are very well drawn, and if you like kimonos, then there's tons of them in here with very, very interesting designs, and also a lot of different character types within this hotel that she gets to work with. So uses this. I don't even know where she's from. She seems to be a very sheltered girl as well. So being in this place, she's learning a lot of new things, a lot of new common sense, and it's her exploring the world around her, trying to make friends with the other and learn more about them. So it's a very, 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 very fun kimono Mimi show. Not much else to say. I would say, it's another kind of, I want to say it's a relaxing show, but they do have some very strange conflicts that have been appearing. So um, as far as where this show's going to, or going, where it's heading, I have no idea. So, but it's just pretty fun just to see how Yuzu goes her next day and what adventures she'll run into. So, not much else to say about this show, other than I like it, and I think a few others like it as well. This is something you got to watch. It's on Crunchyroll, so it's pretty easy to get at least. Let's go to the next title, which so happens to be one show that I'm constantly um, waiting for.
Oh, really?
Yeah, I like it a lot. It's really fun. Uh, Blend S. I don't know. There's just something about it that makes me want to watch the next episode right away. You,
Hmm.
you don't agree?
Honestly, I was kind of shocked that like Aniplex was promoting it as hard as they were. I mean, you know, it's a series that they've licensed, so it kind of makes sense. But um, it's not that I don't enjoy it. It's just that again, it seemed really weird for them to be backing as hard as they were, and I think a big aspect of it was this show. I think in Japan and even a little bit in the U.S. somewhere. I think I heard um, they kind of style it to have like actual events that occur like in actual cafes somewhere, something that's supposed to tie in with the anime, but you know, it doesn't really cover the whole span the whole world. So
So I think the reason for the title Blend S is blend as in the coffee. 'Cause it's a little cafe that these people eventually go to and meet the main characters. And then the S is who Mike portrays as her character attribute, sadistic. So it's a very, very strange cafe. You have your different types, and I think within the first three episodes, we're given just three different types: the Emoto character and the Tsundere character, right?
yeah, there's one.
And then you got Micah, which joins up being the sadistic character, and she is very happy to get this job because she was trying to find a job at the beginning and she wouldn't get hired, and she blames her eyes for this, for that her eyes are very menacing, and that because of that people thinks that she gives off this very bad impression. So she believes that's why she's not getting hired. Maybe so, maybe not. I don't know. But she so happens to run into this cafe, and the manager falls in love with her and decides to hire her right away. And he seems to be this very, very weird masochist, I would almost want to say, because he just loves her sadistic style or side and everything. And the funny thing is that she's not that type of character at all. She's very humble, very nice girl that now is being told to treat customers in a very sadistic way. And it's funny how it plays on her because she has this conflict constantly with it, where she's doing her job and she needs to do her job, but afterwards she feels very guilty and apologizes behind their backs, like, I'm so sorry for everything I've been doing to you. But the great thing is that the customers love it. So uh, it's a very good show for me, I think. And I don't really understand the eyes too much because she makes some lovely faces, she makes some lovely gestures, but it's just that I guess when she's tense or in a certain situation, her eyes just get very narrow, and that's why she gives off that sadistic look, I think.
Yeah, it seems mostly like whenever she's like smiling intentionally or not, but
Yeah.
the smile seems to trigger it.
And at first, it seems like she's doing it on accident, but now it seems like she is kind of getting used to it and doing it more on purpose. But it's funny to see how she does her sadistic moments and everything. And then, of course, with her coworkers, you learn more about them as well. But it tends to focus more on Micah and the manager and their relationship. And of course, Micah doesn't really realize this. She kind of appeals to him just because he's a foreigner and she loves foreign stuff. And I think she wants to travel abroad, right,
Yeah.
for schooling.
Yep.
So that's why she's actually very interested in him. But he kind of he knows this, but he always tricks himself into thinking it's more than what it really is, I think.
Well, yeah, but like, and like, she is really enticed by anything foreign, whereas he is enticed by anything like super Japanese. So you kind of have this like, odd synergy going at play here. But um, I actually was reinvested in this show with specifically the wide cast of characters. The gimmick of the eyes wasn't really going to make it or for me like alone to keep watching. It was enticing enough to give it another shot. And when the rest of the cast really showed up and I kind of realized what they were kind of going for, that's what basically kept me sticking around. Although not really tagged with it, this show is kind of discussing a lot of facets of that same otaku culture that we like to point out when a show tends to expose that stuff, because you have the manager who has this cafe based around cast with the trope level personalities that he kind of wants to do. You've got him and one other like cook who will actually make stuff on the menu, and so far like three or so waitresses. And for as like just a shining example of what I mean, a slight moment spoiler here. I'm not gonna like ruin the whole thing or anything, but I enjoyed seeing how shocked this our character Micah was. That's her name, yeah, Micah, who found a certain book left in the cafe and was shocked by what people can draw, and with the eventual patron who also picked it up, just kind of added more to the humor. And to me, it's also seeing like the cast, like you kind of have that what college-ish student slash adult character who is naturally short, so she pulls off the Imoto character really well. But like she's kind of like this, at least a magical girl otaku, that much I know for sure, aside from like it's almost like figuring out what all the cast kind of appeals to them. And that's what I like more so than just the weird sadistic humor thing that it's going for.
Yeah. All of them seem to have some kind of otaku nature in them, except for Maika. Or I guess you can call her a foreign otaku, right? So the other thing I thought was great was like I skipped the beginnings, but for the ending of this show, I actually watched, and um, with the newest episode out, they actually changed the endings. So they actually kept the endings to be spoiler free. Like you only see the main cast that's on at that particular time, but as new characters are introduced, it looks like they're going to be changing the ending theme
Mm-hmm.
to show those. I thought that was kind of fun, but um, the other thing was that surprised me. It was kind of shocking too. Even though you have the Emoto character, right?
Mm-hmm.
Micah at least seems to be above 18 years old because she was able to look at that book, and they gave her permission to look at that book. And those are typically
Uh,
18, right?
I I don't think she was. I think she accidentally looked at it and then was like some kind of temporarily scarred for life. But I think she's like either 17 or maybe 18. But
Yeah.
I think she wasn't able to read it. She just incidentally did, and then turned it over to management essentially.
Overall, it's really good. I like it. Like I said, I think it comes out on Saturdays, right? Or at least that's when I watch it.
I don't know. I'm not used to the releasing scheme quite yet. I still have to
Yeah.
set up my folders for stuff. Unfortunately, I did, but then I deleted them all by accident.
But some of the misunderstandings or her reactions, I think, are pretty funny. And I think it can only get larger with the new cast and all the things that are going to go on. Like especially, like creating the new menu item out there. It's pretty fun. Um, At first, it seemed like it was going to be a show that centered only during the cafe, but it seems to also be expanding outside of the cafe. So we'll see how it goes with that. But I didn't have too much of a problem with that. But that cook, he made me laugh. He's a big Yuri fan. And his complaints were so funny. But definitely a really good comedy show to watch. You want to know something funny?
Sure.
So that picture they have for the series, you know, when you go to Crunchyroll, has them all on a platter with a cake. It shows all the different characters.
Oh, one of the key visuals, yeah.
Yeah. So, for the while, I was sitting there going, "Where's Mike? How come she's not on there with them?" It took me a while to notice she was the one holding the plate.
Yeah.
I don't get why. But yeah. Watch it, please. Watch it. Let me know what you think about it. This is one I definitely would recommend to quite a few people in my anime groups. Even though a lot of the people that I know really like action and stuff, the comedy in this I think is plentiful for some people to get into. The opening song is catchy. I always try to skip it, but I kind of want to hear it at the same time. Next, we got. Oh, did you want to talk about that show, I guess?
No. Oh, wait, what show? I don't know what you're talking about.
Evil.
Yeah, I'll do a quick thing because at least Jessica had it, and I mean, I'm good up for another like 4 or so. Okay. Straight down the list.
Wait, what's it called again? Evil.
I'm not sure. As weird as that sounds, I am not sure.
I don't have the title card for it, looks like.
Because unfortunately, it's one of those titles that has one of the words can be pronounced one of 2 ways and means something completely different with either pronunciation.
I guess I don't have the title card for it. Go ahead and talk about it. We'll make up. We'll put the Fate Stay Night title. We're gonna be talking about Fate Stay Night, which could be evil or live.
Yes, that's the show we were talking about. Evil or Live, as I'm going to call it for now.
Now let's do Live because we already got Love Live season 2, so we don't need another Live out there.
Anyway, it starts up kind of weird. The animation studio is kind of painting this thing, at least initially. I think this was done by that. I think it's that Chinese animation company, and they did something really, really weird here, and had a lot of weird live action-y shots in the initial explanation of its story. But it seems to be a story about a lot of people today are succumbing to internet addiction, right? They're using their internet devices in such a way where it's leading them away from being functioning adults. And it seems that to correct this problem, there's a school, and parents have to like send their kids to the school or something, or like contact the school to say, hey, my kid has this internet addiction, will you help them? And once the kid is basically abducted, they're thrown into something that's a lot like a military boot camp, a very, very harsh military boot camp that has a strict no internet, no electronic device policy that, you know, I mean, there's like concrete walls, fences, curfews. This thing is practically a boot camp, and the saying of this school is that it will be rehabilitating the internet addicted individuals into being functioning proper members of society. Which by episode 1 or 2, I was kind of, it's like, along from the ride at that point. Like, I use the internet a fair bit. Like how horrible would it be to be going through this boot camp because you like electronic devices or whatever? And it kind of ended up painting a much different story than I initially anticipated, by spinning characters in directions I wasn't accounting for. But I just don't know how like spoilery I want to get with initially what's going on. Initially, when the main protagonist, excuse me for one moment, I was looking away. I can't remember his name, and oh no, they have no characters on the screen. Well, oh well, it must not be that popular at all. Whatever our main character's name is, when he arrives at this school, he walks upon the tallest building that he kind of can, and for a moment seems like he doesn't want to be here so much that he's willing to cast himself off the side of this building. But before he can do so, a character has noticed him and kind of approaches him, kind of somewhat perhaps like calling his bluff, like kind of goading him on, but at the same time calling his bluff. And by the end of the interaction, has said, I think something amongst the lines of like, I either have saved your life, or instead of throwing your life away, give it to me. And to me, I thought he was going to be this like scheming mastermind of a character who was going to subvert the system or something. And that's what was enticing me into the show. But as episode, I think 2 and 3 went by, I came to kind of find out that while our main character acknowledges that he won't kill himself, that's all he kind of meant by it, and he's refusing to call this kid who claimed ownership of him as his master, or someone he just has to follow the orders of. And to make matters cringy or worse, there comes to be an element of almost like there's a social hierarchy at play here, right? And it tries to get into a little bit of like the structured bullying-esque formula that a lot of school shows implement, but since this is boot camp, it's done a little bit differently. And it gets a little bit forceful with some of the characters. I mean, I just don't know how much I really want to reveal, but a lot of the characters can potentially have a lot of authority over other characters, if you could see what I'm getting at here. And it's kind of painting these cringy situations that it ends up not necessarily going that way based on how like our main character is, but it's weird. Like it is weird and not what I initially thought it was going to be. So I'm probably going to watch it all the way through, because so far I've watched just about everything from this Chinese company, and I'm somewhat interested in the direction it's going to end up in. But yeah, it's definitely quite a bit different than what I initially thought it was going to be about. just based off my initial impression of episode 1. And I'm not sure what Jessica wanted to say about it. Maybe just call it.
I don't think she liked it. I think she said,
yeah, I know. I think she dropped it and gave it a 1 because she's, I'm not sure what I can say on her part, but this isn't a story that I'm necessarily watching because like it's like a shining example of anime by any means. But this company, they have one other ongoing project right now that I'm actually still, it's ongoing from last season that I'm watching, but it's that Fox Spirit Matchmaker thing. Oh, I didn't know they did that show. Huh, crazy. They did that Centaur show from last season. I had no idea. But I guess their animation techniques going more traditional anime at times. Because they used to have this weird aesthetic about like Chinese-esque fighting shows. It was kind of their premise for the most part. Like Blood of Wars was kind of weird, but they seem to have gone a lot of different directions. So like I'm just kind of watching it because sometimes when they do a show, it was originally aired in, I think, China, that which they just adapted the dub. Like they literally brought the Chinese animation and dubbed it in Japanese, and then not like re-released it or anything, but released this Chinese animated project as a Japanese dub. They did that one for Spirit Pact, and again, Fox Spirit Matchmaker were the two that were originally Chinese. And I'm not sure if the other ones were made to be full-on Japanese. Like, you know, they just enlisted the help of the studio to make a Japanese animation, and they didn't have to dub it over. But it's kind of weird when Japan, like, dubs somebody else's animation, because I can't think of a lot of examples offhand, but one of the ones that I can readily, or at least recently cite, I think, is, you know, ignoring like the big studios, Disney, Pixar, which arguably, I don't know where a lot of those get made anyway, because there's, you know, Japanese aspects of Disney, Pixar, or maybe just Disney, maybe not Pixar, but at least the full American project that I know that captivated a lot of people in the con scene is that Ruby project that Rooster Teeth put out, and that's one thing that I know that they dubbed and brought over to Japan. Just you don't hear of them importing anime a lot, and more anime-esque projects, not like big theatrical films that we're used to. Yeah, I don't know.
I don't know. I didn't pick up this show, but is it something you would recommend though?
Not particularly. It's weird because it does have the genre that it's slated for is actually horror, which I'm not sure how much it's going to live up to that genre for whatever reason, because like initially it depicts this you know horrible thing of you're basically abducted and thrown into this internet deprived boot camp, which I guess for a lot of people would just be scary just because you know their freedom was taken away and they were thrown into boot camp, not even you know withstanding the fact that they can't use any internet connected devices even if they didn't have an internet addiction. But while you're seeing how all the students have had to live their lives in this establishment, like I just don't know what its horror element is going for. Is this situation itself supposed to be horror, or is it going to open up to something much worse later? I am not sure. So that's kind of, I think, a bigger aspect of why I'm watching it. Like, what is the scope of this show? Like, what is the end game more? Like, assumably the characters are not just going to be rehabilitated, so it's like, what are they going to do to this rehabilitation facility is kind of more my looming thought as I watch this series.
All right. Excuse me. Let's go ahead and go on to the next title then. Kekai Sensen and Beyond.
And beyond.
So
just not to infinity.
This is season 2, right?
It is indeed season 2.
Is it continuing where it left off?
I mean, for the most part, honestly, I can't really remember how the original Keikai Sensen chose to do a finale, because I think that was the one that had like a delayed finale that was kind of lackluster anyway, right?
I don't remember. I don't think I saw the last episode. I think I saw all the way up to the last, and then I was like, I'm not going to finish.
Yes, Keikai Sensen Season 1 was very all over the place. It kind of lost itself in depicting a lot of so if for anyone who doesn't remember that this Keikai Sensen, what was that, the blood blockade battlefront is what it was called, except now with and beyond, was a series where all of a sudden in New York this supernatural event occurred and mist kind of encapsulated it, which arguably would have taken over the whole world, but a barrier was erected and it was just contained into the city of New York, which for the most part got renamed to Hellsame's Lot or something like that. And, it's kind of the catchphrase of the city that, Godzilla attacks are kind of just the norm. It's the background music of the city. That stuff's normal. Sucks to get caught up with it, but it's the daily news. It's nothing special. So it tries to follow an organization that kind of self-polices those extreme elements of this supernatural crime things going wrong. And at the same time, there's a looming threat of vampires in the background where it's not exactly clear the role that they're going to play in a lot of stuff, but the main premise was the main character through a sacrifice of his sister. I don't think like at the mortal level she wasn't like killed, just I think he had a disabled sister who took on a further disability because something gave them an ultimatum making him pick. He has these eyes that can see a lot of things, like they augment his vision. He has abilities based around sight, and it's very weird what season 1 was trying to explain, because at times it was just covering the attacks in and of themselves, and then at other times it was establishing characters and introducing characters, and it's just kind of all over the place. And in my honest opinion, so far, season 2 has started off a lot better. I don't know exactly how it's going to tell its story near the end, but we basically have spent our time going over a lot of the core cast that was introduced in season 1. So you kind of, some crazy events are still going on, but you see the personalities and more of the abilities of the characters kind of get established in quite the suave way. Like I really like how they kind of paid attention to the style of each of the characters as they went on to tell not background stories, but additional stories of the character. And that's something I'm appreciating a whole lot right now. Like the first episode or two were kind of weird, but the next two are pretty good. It's just, since it kind of has a history of being rather inconsistent with its focus, it's hard for me to say it's doing a lot better for sure. Like I've liked season 2 a lot better than season 1 so far, but it's also not over yet. So I do look forward into at least being able to talk about if it maintained an improvement in its season 2, which so far I think it is, but when it comes to like a recommendation, that does make it quite hard, because a lot of the characters that it established they don't really like reintroduce slowly or anything. It's not taking for granted that you haven't seen season 1. So I don't know what season 2 would have to pull off to be like, yeah, watch season 1, or like watch enough of season 1 then skip it, or like watch these key episodes then get right to season 2 if it turns out to be any bit better than season 1 specifically.
I don't know. I kind of want to watch it, but for some reason, just something's holding me back.
I get you, man. And like in all honesty, so when I have been saying what I have been about Keikai Sensen, I just need to check something on my phone here. I forgot what I was looking at last. That was kind of cringy. I do believe I have watched up to the episode 4, and I think episode 3 and 4 are perfect examples of evaluating the characters that you would like to hear more of in quite a suave, polished way, or an interesting way at least. I know 1 and 2 I think were introduced with just the supernatural events that we kind of have to fight through. So, are the majority of the episodes going to be like 3 and 4 for a while, or are they going to be like 1 and 2, just kind of going back to, oh no, the supernatural thing gone wrong. Let's use our collection of quirky abilities to save the day.
They always save the day.
But at least 3 and 4 were pretty redeeming in my personal opinion. I really enjoyed 3 and 4, so I'm looking forward and hoping that I get a few more like those. Hard to say if I will, but or like once they reestablish the character, I think they might just move on.
All right, let's go to the next title.
Mm-hmm.
Which you, I think, put here, which Hoseki no Kumi.
Yeah, I don't know why you'd want to skip over that one, man.
What is it?
English title, if you're doing that, is The Land of the Lustrous.
What?
Yeah, it's not what it sounds like.
Oh, okay.
Lustrous as in like gems, because that's what a lot of the characters are made of. This is quite the original. It's based off a manga. It's not an original anime, but it's very original in concept is kind of what I meant. It's got a unique cast of characters as they're all modeled after personified gemstones. And, you're kind of put into this world where you have these invaders from the other side who wish to abduct you because you are a precious gemstone. And, the characters have to fend for themselves with, I think, like a human-like mentor. I don't really know the backstory to this thing. I know with it being a manga, there might be someone who can do that a lot better than I, but yeah, so like the characters have to fight off this evil invading thing to not be abducted, and it kind of really paints the lifestyle of how different an existence has to be to what we're used to as human. Like how does one exist as gemstone? Like they have the benefit of immortal life essentially. As long as they have light, they seemingly can remain animated and live forever, although their eternal life has shortcomings in which each gemstone has a natural hardness scale, or they have a spot on the hardness scale, and certain materials, even at like their structural value, have like impact resistance based on the structure of the crystal, regardless of the hardness scale. So there's like a lot of weird elements being assigned to each of the characters as far as like how readily available they are to act as that competitive character. It just really paints an interesting world, in my opinion. Like there's other life forms introduced as the series goes on for a little while. Like as weird as that intro sounded, it gets weirder.
So is this 100% CG or?
Yeah, I actually forgot to mention. It doesn't look to me 2D drawn at all. It's a very unique process. It's absolutely 100% CG, but at the same time, I hear the manga had a unique visual style, and the anime also has a very unique visual style, which I don't have any like comparisons I could readily produce, just because like they really took advantage of the backgrounds of the characters to really go for this style that they've achieved. So, if they weren't made of gemstones, the series probably wouldn't look this way. So it's very unique in animation approach. And I mean, it is CG, like it is character CG in the end, but some of the other visual effects that they had to apply to each of the characters, because they are supposed to be, you know, gemstones in nature, is different.
Oh. For some reason, when I see this title, I always get it confused with that Hozuki thing. I know they don't sound similar at all or anything, but Hozuki title always just comes up first whenever I hear the Hoseki. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. Yeah, but like we've had pieces of that people have reviewed in our anime talk, and you know that review is kind of unique to them, so I didn't want to bring up their aspects of the story, but
So is this a show something that I should try to pick up because it's interesting, or?
I'd honestly say that's kind of up to you, really. It seems like it's rather well received. People tend to be watching it, is what I've picked up on. The ratings tend to actually be on the higher side. But I can also envision that for some people, it might just be, you know, too weird or not what they're looking for, or it just fails to appeal to that sense of mystery, perhaps, of wondering like how the world exists in the way it does, and what the whole point of the story is going to be. But
If I got time, I'll probably watch at least one episode and see.
yeah, perhaps like check it out. I know there was kind of a shock value put in like episode 2 or 3. I forget the timeline, even though we're not that far into it. Just, you know, watching so much. And it was resolved in even a further, far more interesting way than I was originally predicting it was going to go. So, there is kind of a shock factor in the early few episodes that it kind of keeps that spirit somewhat alive. One of the things that I kind of neglected to mention was the premise of the character. The story seems to revolve around the character. Foss is her short name, and I forget the gem that she's supposed. I forget the long, you know, non-short name. Phospholite, I believe. She has like a relative 3 on the hardness scale and is not really suited for combat at all, being rather brittle and can fracture and break at some of the lighter impacts she receives. So she tends to have to be a protected character. But another premise that's going on here is like a lot of the characters have a suitable role. You know, if you have that crystal structure and you have a high hardness number, you're fine for combat. But what do people do when they aren't meant for combat? A lot of times through that gem master, Kongo Sensei, they receive kind of like a job, not like one that they necessarily get paid for or anything, because that level of community is not like a stat. Like it's a very small scale civilization. There's probably only about 10-ish super main cast and a lot of like super support roles that will never be prevalent throughout the series. But like, you know, everybody has a purpose is kind of what is trying to be established here. And it has been set for Foss that she is to build the encyclopedia or build upon it. She has to analyze the world and basically come up with new knowledge. And she's kind of spun as a character who is kind of clumsy and useless, which seems to be true, but she kind of has to make it her goal to make certain things happen, which I was just going to obscure for plot reasons. So while given this role, you're met by various pacings. At times she's kind of wandering around it and just kind of trying to figure out her purpose or achieving her role, and at times, stuff's going down. So it's definitely not a boring show, I wouldn't say, because of all the twist that it kind of has introduced in a rather unique way. But yeah, it's a rather interesting show in my opinion. I've just got hooked into it on premise alone of how outlandish it is.
Yeah, I think I'll check out the first episode.
Oh, but it is also worth noting that while the characters, as I mentioned, can be broken, there is a small mechanic in the background there that claims that they're alive as gemstones because of like tiny microbes that live within the gemstone. And if a part is broken off, as long as it can be like collected and rebuilt, as long as like those microbes are I don't know if they're microbes or not, but as long as those things are still alive within the gemstone and have memories or something, like the person can be restored with, like, a limb has broken off, you can kind of stick it back on, give it time, and it'll be fine. So like when you notice a character lose something, that it's not like a permanent blemish. Because I mean, you see that happen quite often in the series, and it's like for people who have lived an eternal life, they aren't as for them not to be shattered with how easy the series seems to make it look to occur. Yeah. Hopefully you know what I'm trying to say, because I made that one a little bit of a mess.
Just I don't know, when you say those little machines, I think of nano machines or something like that. Rebuild it. Was there anything else you wanted to talk about, or you think we're good for today?
Let me reference the list. I guess I think we could be good, since we're not going to do another one. A lot of it's just continuing seasons for the most part beyond this.
Yeah, so
a couple of lesser quality startups.
Yeah, some are, I don't know, like, what else was there? Excuse me, I got hiccups. Two Car, I heard at least one person say they liked it, and then I've heard another say it was trash.
Well, I think within our community, we will have quite a lot of people who will rate mediocrity as like trash.
Wake Up Girls, season 2. What else is there? Idolmasters Side M, which is, I don't even know. I can't believe how popular Osamatsu-san is.
Yeah, that one escaped me.
I might have to try that again and see why. But other than that, I think we're done for tonight. Join us as we do the end of the fall season, when the fall season end comes. So that, I guess, either next year or at the end of this year, we'll do the final video. Let you know what we've kept on going, what we haven't. Other than that, have a nice holidays. There's a lot of them in between now, right? Got Halloween, Thanksgiving. I think Christmas is when everything's going to be ending. But
I was about to say, I think Christmas.
I think that's when we typically have a break, though, because everyone's doing stuff with the family, so we don't have the video right away.
And stuff tends to still be ending around that time, I think.
I think because of this being the Halloween weekend, we couldn't get a lot of people to join us. Everyone's busy. We think the fall season's a good time to relax, but it's just everyone's having all these get-togethers. other than that, join us if you are an Anime Talk. If you want to join in the discussions, I welcome everyone. And everyone will probably welcome you, as long as it's about the current season. Don't forget that I think Nick and I and maybe one other have a video from 2 years ago about movies to watch during the Halloween, like scary movies, like Perfect Blue and stuff like that, or thrillers. Because I don't think there's really any scary movies when it comes to anime, but there are some really creepy stuff.
Yeah, I know we talked about some things, but I don't know if that was just a movie discussion or specific horror theme. I know we tried to do that collection of like Christmassy Halloween themed episodes just because like when it approaches those seasons, but
yeah,
I'm not sure who's going to go out of their way to watch like a whole series of anime just because it has like a Christmas or Halloween episode.
Yeah.
Or just watch the episode to say, I watched an episode about Halloween on Halloween. About 6 of them, actually.
Yeah, I remember, I think it was OreAni that had something that talked about Halloween. Because their family was making candy. And I think it was the childhood friend's family was making the Halloween candy, right?
For what?
Halloween mentioned in OreAni.
Something out of that Shaft studio, I think. I'm not sure. OreAni, maybe?
Let's see.
But I don't know. For some reason, I'm thinking, nah, I'm thinking of something else, I think.
Yeah, so join us next time. And if you ever have any questions or just want to talk about anime, join us on Anime Talk. I'll admit, I've been kind of gone from Google Plus, which has made me so sad. I'm going to try to get back into it. Yeah, because I like check it once a week, maybe 2 times a week, depending. But send me a message on Google Hangouts. I typically always get those, or go on with Line. You can always just add me on Line. I think my username is just Tenkun, right?
Yeah.
Send me a message, and well,
he looks kind of jank though, because I don't think he has a profile picture. So
I'll get a profile picture, but yeah, yeah, add me online just because, you know. Other than that, thank you all for watching, or all that's going to be watching, or all that have watched, however you want to say it. But that's it for today. Go ahead, Nick.
Go ahead. Go ahead with what?
I was asking if you had anything you wanted to add.
Oh, okay. Sorry, I thought I heard go ahead. Yeah, I actually was quite happy that ecstatic actually. As I was watching anime over the past since like Thursday, so since Thursday, some of the correlations I was talking about in Anime Talk 1 actually kind of happened in episodes this week, which was kind of funny because I thought I was actually kind of really loose when I said that, Inuyashiki was like Astro Boy gone wrong. Like, I didn't really felt that I had a good, super good tie-in with that because it's a little different in concept, but it was really funny when in episode, I believe, 3, our main character, who has been given a weaponized android body, has to sing the Atom or Astro Boy theme song to try to fly. I was like, hey, I said Astro Boy, awesome. And in the NetJew game, or the NetJew anime, I was talking about playing a tutorial for an online game that, you had controls and you were kind of moving about the screen, and it did this like really weird Moe-esque jump scare. It wasn't a jump scare, but it just, just threw a character out of nowhere, like all over your screen. Like it was a jump scare, but not in a horror-esque setting. And I'll leave you to find it, if you will, but it was totally referenced that very game in that this week's episode of the NetGeo anime. So I was kind of happy about that too.
All right.
And that's all.
Bye-bye, everyone.
Mm-hmm.